This might be the craziest chapter yet, with us finally getting to God Valley and its mysteries being revealed. We learn about the Davy Jones. We find out what happens with Shanks' mom, why Rox was at God Valley, really the real reason, and even Dragon does something this chapter. I know, shocking and so much more, so make sure to stay tuned for this one. Now chill out parking within and smash that like button if you enjoy seeing One Piece reviews on the channel like this one and want to keep them coming. Make this the video you join the Nakama if you haven't already by subscribing and hitting that notification bell so you don't miss future One Piece reviews and updates. And now, without further ado, let's jump into it, spoilers and all. This chapter is called The Faithful Island, since we finally get what we've been begging for, vital information about what actually happened the day of the God Valley incident. The chapter starts with the narrator telling us that one day Shaki was kidnapped and Rock's pirate Don Marlone was killed. The person responsible was a Rock's pirate trader, namely Ochoku. So here's why that's actually a huge deal. Ochoku would later be rewarded for his betrayal, as we know, by taking over Hachinosu. So this Rock's trader becomes the ruler of Pirate Island after Rock's. And what's more, he is eventually overthrown by Blackbeard, Rox's son, during the Rocky Port incident. So something like this without this bit of information, which might have seemed interesting but kind of random before, now takes on a whole new meaning when we think that Blackbeard was actually taking the island back from the man that betrayed his father. So I know it's kind of weird to look at it this way, but if we accept that Rox was the rightful ruler, quote-unquote, of Hachinosu, then Blackbeard in a weird way is sort of reestablishing the proper royal lineage in Hachinosu. Now, they are pirates and not royals, so it's not quite like a Disney movie, okay? But it still feels way more cool and interesting now that we know this bit of information. If Blackbeard ends up being anywhere near as likable as his father has been during this flashback, which doesn't seem likely, but if it happens somehow after everything Blackbeard did, the rest of One Piece should be very interesting indeed. Anyways, back to the chapter at hand, and no one in Hachinosu had any clue how this could happen. The news of the Shaki kidnapping spread throughout the world, and even the economy of the world was paused for several weeks. If this isn't the closest equivalent to Helen of Troy I've seen, I don't know what is. I mentioned it before, but the power of a woman's beauty, being able to shake the world this much, definitely makes me think of the woman whose face is said to have launched 1,000 ships. And we can't even say that it's unrealistic, since we do have a quote-unquote historical precedent for it. It's still crazy to me to think that we've seen Shaki in present day and had absolutely no idea how crazy everyone, the whole world really used to be over her. That's the power of ODA for you, making us look at everything differently with new information, new reveals, and making me personally want to reread the whole story with every new crazy reveal we get. Ochoku, for his part, was very excited reading the news of the kidnapping. Gloriosa was crying with sadness and despair. Roger even destroyed the newspaper, and Rayleigh, I'm glad to see, was very worried about Shaki. Maybe something like this helped give him and his actual feelings a good kick in the pants. Roger says, "Rox, that bastard. How could this happen under his watch? I will kill him." And Rayleigh can't hold back anymore either and says, "Shaki," with exclamation marks. 1 year later, aka 38 years ago, Garling returns to God Valley. The red-haired woman, we can't see her face during this chapter either, introduced him to Shamrock and Shanks, supposedly his sons, right? Garling is surprised to see that she had twins and says they're adorable. Now, so far so good, but things are about to take a dark turn. The red-haired woman, like most mothers would probably do, asks Garling to stay with her and the kids, aka with his family on the island. But we then get a huge tone shift from Garling as he says no, because God Valley will disappear. After having just said their kids are adorable, he proceeds to pull out his sword and stabs the woman. So wow, pulling a Yasop is one thing, but this dude is just a pure monster. But now we can understand why Shanks would probably want nothing to do with him and what he represents if he knows this truth of what happened to his mom. At the same time, we also see a lot of marine battleships arriving to the island. So Shanks' mom falls on the ground, seriously injured, and Garling says a wife that's befitting his status has already been decided. I think you guys can guess, based on previously mentioned events, who he means. In fact, make it even more obvious, Garling says he had quote-unquote placed the order for her to be captured, and she will be his wife if he wins the tournament. Now, whether Rox was over Shaki or not, which he is because he found another woman, as we talked about, you gotta admit though that this is not a good look for him. The treasure of the world, in a sense, was kidnapped right in his own territory against his wishes. Rox will give other reasons he needs to go to God Valley later, important ones, but if he wanted to maintain his reputation, he kind of has no choice but to go, since Garland getting away with this is definitely not a good look for Rox. The citizens of God Valley try to leave the island because they don't know what's happening, but the Marines stop them. And the first time we see Dragon doing something in forever, he is doing the opposite of what we want. But to be fair with Oda, it is good to show the events that push Dragon down his current path, and we get some of that here. We knew Dragon was a Marine at one point, and here we see a young Monkey D. Dragon. His box refers to him as the future leader of the Revolutionary Army and father of Luffy. Dragon doesn't want to kill people because he is a very weird Marine, so he shoots some guys that attacked him with tranquilizers instead. Just thank God they're not cork guns. Dragon doesn't even know the purpose of the mission and tries to ask about it, but his superior shuts him down. So you can definitely see how someone would become disillusioned in this environment, and if anything, it's more surprising to me that Garp didn't after all those years. We then cut to a Marine slave ship that is heading to God Valley. We see Ginny leaking info about the tournament prizes to the outside. Ivankov was very angry with the other slaves because they lost their fighting spirit. Kuma was in another part of the ship, but he listened and smiled thinking about how energetic some slaves are. Nice to see everything tying together like this, even from Kuma's flashback. These reveals have been a long time coming, and we're finally gonna get the payoff. We then cut to the Cypherpole Information Department. A very young Morgans, the president of the World Economy newspaper at the time, arrives saying he has incredible information. Morgans is dressed the same as in the present, but he wears a beret on his bird head. That's right, even ultimate clickbaiter Morgans makes an appearance in this chapter. This chapter's got everything, I tell you. It seems Cypherpole paid Morgans not to publish the information. They threatened to erase him, but Morgans tells them to try if they have enough courage. Every newspaper guy should be like this. Young Morgans is a legend in his own right. He plans to leak the information to Hachinosu in any case. Then we see the pirates of Hachinosu learn that Shaki is being used as the tournament prize in God Valley, so they head out to save her. Big Mom is interested in the other prizes, saying she wants good devil fruits for her children. She even tells Kaido that maybe he can get an interesting one too, and of course we know he gets his legendary Gyarados fruit there. Then we see 3 certified legends, Rox, Roger, and Garp, all on the move to God Valley. What an epic moment oozing in historical significance in the world of One Piece. On the way to God Valley, Rox is blocked by Herald again. Oh, Herald. But it's okay, Herald doesn't completely disappoint this time around. So Herald was sent by the world government, and there's a world government ship there just to make sure Herald follows orders. Rox asks to drink and speak alone with Herald, and Herald accepts. Here Rox opens up about everything. He says, Herald, there's a hidden part of my name. My real name is Davy D. Zebek. Herald says, then Rox is not your name? Rox says, my clan is probably something the government has been trying to completely eliminate for a long time. With the legendary pirate Davy D. Jones as our ancestor, the clan has managed to survive, just barely in the underworld. I don't know if this is a good thing or not, but I got a kid now. To protect my wife and child from any possible danger, I decided to send them both to my homeland, telling them to rely on the Davy clan. Can you guys believe this? I think the most shocking thing for me after all these flashbacks is that Rox comes off as such a likable, understandable character. It's crazy. How are they gonna get away with the much loved Roger and Garp in their own right teaming up against him? Are their reputations gonna be as good as they once were in our eyes after this? I honestly can't wait to see how Oda handles this, but I gotta say he did an amazing job with making Rox still a legendary powerful pirate, but also likable. Anyways, back to the conversation, and Herald says, I see, so your relatives and now your family are all in your homeland. And Rox says, yeah, and that place is God Valley. Rox says he's heading to God Valley on paper to save Shaki, but actually is going to save his wife and kid. Herald refuses to join with Rox and pretends to fight, but at least he allows Rox to get away. So like I said, at the very least, he has enough moral sense at this point to not actually try to stop him for real from saving his family. Thank the Lord that Herald has a shred of honor left at least. Definitely not impressed by his character overall, but I am impressed, as I keep saying, with Rox. He's just amazing. We then get an epic double page on the day of the God Valley incident. We're officially here, if you can believe it, after the introduction of some prizes, like the rare devil fruits. The Master of Ceremonies, aka MC, brings Shaki to the stage as the big prize of the tournament. Oh man, I can't wait to see Rayleigh come to the rescue here with Roger and the rest. It's gonna be so epic. Shocky wears a Kuja costume and looks clean and healthy because they took care of her since she was captured. The MC explains who Shocky is, the former empress of the Island of Women, and says that the winner will decide whether to make her his wife or his slave. Crazy stuff. The Celestial Dragons in the audience are very excited. We see Garling, a young Summers, and Gunko with long hair among the gods' knights. The girl with a beret from the Man-Mayer family that we saw in Kuma's flashback is next to Gunko as well. A Celestial Dragon says, "Amazing. What a beauty, Summers. Make sure to get that for the Shepherd family." So it's pretty much a competition between the top noble families, you could say. Summers says, "Don't be ridiculous. If I win, she's going to be my personal slave." Definitely sounds like Summers to me. Surprisingly, Garling doesn't want her for a slave, but says she's going to be my wife, so stay away even in your dreams, Summers. Man-Mayer Girl says, "Gunko, now that we have you, we might be able to get a trophy in the clan war." So virtually everyone has their fans and people cheering them on. We then cut to Dragon, I know this is the most action he's seen in a while, who has discovered the wounded mom of Shanks inside a house because he followed a trail of blood. The woman says, "Please, take my children away from this island, don't let him have them." We then see Kid Teach and his mom, face not shown, handcuffed in a cage. Teach's mom says, "Come here, Teach, it's going to be alright. You have to survive no matter what." So now you can understand why in the anime a young Blackbeard was shown crying while staring at the moon. Clearly this was a traumatizing incident where he probably loses both parents and is left to fend for himself at a very young age. Not to mention that as a Davy Jonesian, as I'll call him, he's probably the #1 enemy of the powers that be, so he's gotta be on the run forever. The MC then says, "And now, you can't call yourself a world noble if you haven't heard of them. Aside from a brat from the Buccaneer clan, we have another super rare rabbit for this tournament. Finally, a rediscovery after 800 years, the Davy clan. So people rarer and more hated than the Buccaneers, and Blackbeard is one." Absolutely crazy and amazing chapter, and all this time I'm waiting for Oda to try and make me dislike Zebek, but it still hasn't happened. Dude is just more and more likable every chapter, now doing all he can to save his wife and child. This is honestly peak One Piece for me, but let me know if you're enjoying this as much as me, or if you're not, why not? But anyways, like and subscribe for more One Piece reviews like this one, and so you don't miss them. If you enjoyed this video, you won't want to miss this one on screen right now that YouTube says you'll like, and I'll see you in the next one for the next exciting installment.